Welcome to the Voice of Retail. I'm your host, Michael LeBlanc. This podcast is brought to you in conjunction with Retail Council of Canada. For my last in-person episode recorded live in my Las Vegas pop-up podcast studio at Shoptalk 2022, I'm thrilled to welcome back to the podcast longtime friend and colleague, veteran retail technologist, Andrew Cherwenka. As a skilled poker player, Andrew is right at home, walking the aisles of Shoptalk and right at home in Vegas, but in his role as the head of eCommerce for Vega, a Vancouver-based, Miami VC-owned plant-based product nutrition company, he's not gambling with his international tech stack. He's built it from the ground up, tells us all about it. We also dive into Andrew's observations and learnings from the show, including live streaming and learnings from live streams on the major platforms, DTC success factors, unique product placement concepts, and how to win with Amazon.
You know, from a brand standpoint, my biggest concern is I just want to own all of those spaces before someone else jumps on and sells a tub of our protein powder for $1,000. If they're a legitimate marketplace, I want to have a listing, and then we'll see what takes off.
Let's listen in now. Andrew, welcome to the Voice of Retail podcast, my friend. How are you?
I'm doing really well. Good to see you again, Michael.
Well, I should say welcome back. You were on the podcast before, I think, I want to say almost 2.5, 3 years ago, which is pretty close to the last time you and I saw each other in person in Vancouver, right?
Yeah, that was it.
Fantastic. Well, it's so fun. We're here together at Vegas Shoptalk, so I thought I'd roll the dice and see if we could get you on the microphone. It all panned out pretty well. So listen, let's jump in. Tell listeners about yourself and your background and what you do for a living.
Great to see you in person. Great to see anybody in person after 2 years. This Shoptalk conference is amazing. I'm so happy to be here and thrilled to be on the podcast. So as you know, I've been in e-commerce now for many years. I started in 2003. About half of that time has been on the agency side, and then the other half was client side or even with tech vendors. Currently, I run e-commerce for Vega protein powder. That is roughly half the revenue of the company. The other half is bricks and mortar, so I'm responsible for anything that goes online. And that is through Amazon, it's through DTC.
Interesting.
Our biggest area of growth is omni-channel or bricks and clicks, so the retailers' websites. But that's huge growth category, huge growth channel, and we are a growing category. Plant-based protein powder is doing very well.
Yeah, well, tell me all about Vega. Scope, scale, what you sell, and what makes you guys different.
Yeah. So Vega is mostly protein powder. We have some other products as well, but that's our sweet spot. And we sell to U.S. and Canada, some overseas, and we're looking for global expansion. But really, it's mostly U.S. and Canada.
Right on. And it's a protein powder. So tell me about the SKUs and the assortment, and what should I look for? I knew right away when I saw your posting, you went to Vega, and I buy the food bars, protein bars, which are my favorite. But I didn't realize the scope and scale. You got such a great variety of different products. So tell us about it.
Yeah. We've been around for 20 years.
Really?
We are the leader in plant-based protein powder.
Based in Vancouver, right?
Based in Vancouver, but we're now owned by a private equity company out of Miami.
Okay.
WM Partners, and they bought us last July 2021.
Oh, I didn't track that. Where's the product manufactured? Where do you make
Canada and the U.S.
Canada and the U.S. Yeah. Okay, so domestic. Let's call that domestic, right?
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And about how many SKUs do you have? And tell me more about why I would choose Vega versus anybody else's product.
Yeah, a few dozen core SKUs, probably 100 plus if we add them all up. But really, the sweet spot is protein powder. It's supplemental protein powder. It's plant-based. We really created the category 20 years ago in the early 2000s. And since then, the category has grown. As you know, plant-based foods that category itself is growing leaps and bounds. And we are the premium powder. There are competitors out there, probably dozens that are nipping at our heels. In the U.S., we're basically tied for first, second, or third with a few other brands.
Right.
But it's an exciting category. It's a very easy product to sell because it's such high quality. It is a higher price point, but for my scope, just the online portion, the e-commerce, we're across Amazon. We've got a really good relationship with Amazon for a long time now. DTC was a bit of a mess when I took it over. Now we've re-platformed. We've got all new vendors that are helping us out. And
you said Shopify, your Shopify Plus platform?
Yeah, Shopify Plus, yeah.
And that gives you a lot of flexibility, I guess, is that because you came in and probably one of your first tasks is to, I remember you posted, I'm going to re-platform, I'm going to build a new tech stack.
Yeah.
Where do I start? And so Shopify Plus was in the running, and then eventually you chose it, and it's a bunch of partners, and that brings you here today.
Yeah,
right?
at the time when I came in, we were owned by Danone, the French company that also has Evian and Dan and Yogurt, and we were one of the only non-refrigerated products in the Danone empire. When WM Partners bought us, we're now part of a bunch of other e-commerce strong brands. So this is it was a great acquisition for us. My life improved tremendously with the help of WM Partners. Our private equity company is just so supportive. So it's been an interesting road in the first half of changing the people, the process, the technology. We were not a particularly e-commerce forward company. And the reason I was brought in was to restructure and to just look at everything. So really, it is unrecognizable from a year and a half ago. We have all new vendors now, restructured the people as well.
How's the talent pool in Vancouver? I mean, remember you and I were last talking, it's a generally, in one way, it's a smaller talent pool, but there's kinds of concentrated pockets, and I know some big players have come in and hired a lot of people. So, what's the talent situation like in Vancouver?
I know it's very good because we have I don't even know what our head count is, over 100 people total at Vega. But I will say more than half of our people, more than half of my team is outside of Vancouver. Half my team's in a different time zone, and I think that's also part of the way that companies are working now. I really don't particularly care where someone lives as long as they have the same working hours.
Did that change during COVID for you? Like I've talked to a lot of executives. I mean, the technology was really always there. Culturally, it was a big change for organizations. Was that a change for the Vega organization culturally?
Yeah, not for me because I joined during the pandemic. So I didn't even meet my boss until about 6 or 7 months into it.
Wow.
I still haven't met some of the people.
Did he like the fact
team.
you were living in Vancouver, though? Would he, even then, would they have hired you as an organization if you were in Toronto or Las Vegas or wherever?
I think it's an advantage. It certainly is a huge advantage to be in the office with people. If somebody is local and they're the same caliber as someone else that's not, then they're going to have the edge.
Right. All things being equal.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Exactly. Okay. But I do think that it's a global recruitment hunt now. Right. We know it's a candidates market. If somebody's great, they're in a different time zone, I'm fine with that.
They're fine. And I guess that gets back to that. It probably also gets to how you choose your platform tech stack, because you want people that with transferable skills who know a more common platform too, right? So you can reach out anywhere in North America and find someone who knows one element of your platform. Yeah. Right? That's a big plus for you, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we had clear sailing to go whatever direction we wanted. I was going to build a headless e-com site. We interviewed different vendors. We went through a whole RFP process. It made sense to me that we should be Shopify Plus. This was not the direction that Danone wanted us to go, because imagine handling dozens or even hundreds of brands worldwide. Yeah. You would obviously want everybody to be on the same platform, and headless made sense. I pushed hard against that, and thankfully I did, because WM Partners, our new private equity company, their other brands are on Shopify Plus as well. So we have built up, and we will be sharing all of the brands and the resources in the same fund, and thankfully we're all Shopify Plus. So now I can leverage the Shopify ecosystem with all of our different new vendors. So
a few of whom I've seen here today, right?
Almost all of them are. I've brought in Klaviyo on the email side. We have BrightEdge on the SEO side. We've got Yapo. It's interesting meeting with all the brands and retailers. We all have a similar tech stack if we have Shopify Plus. There are one or two vendors that lead each of the different wedges of the pie to bring traffic in.
Interesting. Kind of caliber. And by the way, to listeners, this is not a Shopify Plus episode sponsored or promotional, but if someone from Shopify Plus is listening, feel free to call me up and throw me a big bag of money. And we'll just settle out. We'll just settle out later. All right. So we're here, as you said, we're here at Shoptalk. We're here in Vegas. I guess we were talking off mic that both of us were talking about it's time to get out and start to circulate now that things have simmered down and we think we're all in a better place. But beyond that, what brought you to Shoptalk? And while you're here, what have you been hearing? And have you heard any kind of interesting things, either on the stage or chit and chat informally or informally? And has anything surprised you or delighted you? So talk about your experience here.
Yeah. It's the first conference I've been to in 2 years. Similar story with almost everybody that I meet. And we're here to really to network and see people in real life and get that magic that happens when you talk to people face to face. I've been on so many video conferencing calls in 2 years, and it's just not as beneficial when you're sitting at a table for breakfast or lunch with random retailers and you're sharing your tech stack and strategies, and you hear about some of the surprising things that are happening. We all get to just bounce off of each other. It just feels, I don't know, feels so much more powerful than just the online meetings. So what has surprised me? I think most of us are surprised at the need for live streaming. Now, maybe that doesn't apply to all brands, but to us in health and wellness, it certainly does apply. And I'm looking forward to tapping into live streaming.
Now let's define live stream, because it's like one of those terms that everybody has a different definition for. So I worked, as you know, for the Shopping Channel, which is 18 hours of live television each and every day that we live streamed online as well. I've talked to brands who live stream, but they're really recording and putting on their YouTube site. Are you talking about actual live? Like what in your mind is interesting you about live stream, and what's so compelling about it for you?
Yeah, and I mean, I would say it's both. It is live streaming. So let's say we get one of our educators, one of our nutritionists, live streaming. Let's say it's a half hour. It could even just be 10 or 15 minutes. But here's our latest content on health and wellness, how you can use our products, how our products fit in with your life, or even just going beyond that and talking about health and wellness in general. So live streaming that on our site or on any of the other platforms. And then what interests me is building a content library that people can watch afterwards and buy in the stream. And that's what some of these tech vendors are providing, is the ability to build your own library and have people watch it afterwards. One of the surprises that one of the speakers mentioned was this notion that live stream actually still does have value after the in-the-moment video is done. So people do want to access that library. So I want to tap into both. I want to tap into the power of an actual live stream that is syndicated across Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, but I also want that library to be searchable and shoppable.
I mean, the challenge that we ran into, and I think continues, is how to build what you and I used to call, when we were growing up, appointment TV, right? Yeah. Everybody tuned into MASH or whatever, because I remember watching the X-Files. My wife is like, Friday night at 9 o'clock, no matter where we were watching the X-Files, because that's how you consume television. Those days are, other than live sports, long gone, right? I think that feels like the biggest. It feels like the technology. I as well saw a bunch of tech vendors in that space, and I got a bit of background understanding it. But the challenge, I think, for a lot of us is going to be building that appointment for the live stream. And I think the platforms are very helpful, right? People who are already following you, you get an alert, hey, I'm on Facebook or TikTok or whatever, it's going live. All right, I'm of that moment, right? So it'll be so interesting to see that the two parallel things: A, tune in at 10 o'clock, B, just throw it out and see who kind of dials in and keep it fresh. And then, as you said, the third part, is building up that video database of the fresh.
Engage with it afterwards.
Interesting.
If it died in the moment, then I would just be going on QVC, just be going on the platforms. If it died in the moment, we're not going to have a big enough audience on our site to bring people into scheduled program, 2 p.m. every day. But the fact that I can keep it and have a searchable content library is what excites me.
Right.
And it's not either or. It is both.
It is absolutely both.
Yeah.
You're creating content, and then content lives on forever, right?
Yeah. The other, and sorry to answer the question on surprises. The other surprise to me is the number of new technologies and opportunities in the realm of DTC, direct to consumer. There's no question every single brand, every retailer wants to have their own DTC site. Some just aren't inclined toward it, like refrigerated products, but some, like me with protein powder,
shelf stable as we would call it.
And lends it so well to subscriptions because we're a monthly purchase.
Sure.
DTC makes a ton of sense, and there are so many new opportunities with DTC, from AI search tools to putting live streaming on, as I said, or all the different ways that we can reach out. We met with a vendor who has offered to put our product, sample sizes of our product, in upscale Airbnbs. So, $500 a night or more.
Product placement.
Exactly.
And then,
so we've got so many vendors here that have interesting ways to bring people back to our site. So, of course, the free sample has a QR code. And if somebody's on a long-term stay.
Okay, was that on your bingo card that QR codes were going to come back the way they have? Like pre-pandemic?
Yeah.
Come on.
Would I bet on that? No.
No. Come on.
No.
You're a betting man, but I would bet you wouldn't have bet on that, right?
Yeah. No, I wouldn't have, but boy, has it ever come back with a vengeance.
With a vengeance. Let's skip ahead a little bit. I want to circle back and talk about digital, but let's talk about what you're describing. And if I frame it as brand equals wholesale and retail, right? And you do both, right? You sell direct, and you also sell through wholesale. Amazon, you probably consider. Do you consider that in your retail relationships? I mean,
it's a retailer.
They're a retailer, right? Okay, so let's just so we chalk the field, because everybody talks about this stuff a little different.
Yeah.
My experience has been threefold. One is a lot of brands don't know what they're getting into because they're very good wholesalers, and the retail piece of the business is very foreign to them in 5 different ways, right? Yeah. And the other part is I think they discover that it's kind of hard, right? That it's hard to, like the money just doesn't, this is great. I'm going to save all this money because I don't have to go through that boring middleman anymore, the useless middleman. Oh, my God, it's hard because platforms are expensive. How do you think about that building both culturally and from a business? 1 + 1 = 3. In other words, I'm going to sell direct, and I'm going to have a purpose for that. Why would I come to your site? Why would I go to Vega to buy if I can buy from Amazon, if I can buy from any other wholesale? How do you, and in your discussions with the retailers, how do you stitch that together and say, here's why this makes sense for all of us and we're all going to win? Talk about how you guys think about that.
Yeah. I mean, first, DTC is such a small percentage of our overall business. It's my task is to make it a bigger percent. I actually don't care about the percent. I just want it to grow because I do believe that people want to have a closer relationship to brands that they trust. And Vega is a trustworthy brand. After 2 decades, we're a B Corp, we do the right thing, we're clean inside and out. We have a really good story. And those who like our product are more inclined to join our email list, to join our subscriptions, to come back to see if there's any new content where they can learn how the product fits in with their lives. And
that gives you a nice direct connection to the customer for everything from new product launches to product development too, right? Yeah. Which is harder to come by if you're exclusively a wholesale relationship.
Exactly. We're not the kind of thing where it's not like a TV purchase where you buy once. We are a company that offers products, and if you like our sport protein powder, you're probably inclined to like some other powders as well, or other products that we have. So that relationship, we know for sure many customers go to websites to learn more about the products that they're going to buy, and then they go to Amazon to buy it. And I'm fine with that. Amazon is a great partner of ours, and it is the bulk of our online revenue.
Well, they got the bulk of the audience. So
over half of searches happen on Amazon, and protein powder is one of the hottest categories on Amazon. I mean, it's unavoidable, but I know a lot of retailers are trying to avoid Amazon. I don't know why. At least for us, they're a great partner, and they are a growing part of our revenue. But of course, I also want DTC because our customers want to have a website that they can trust, that they can learn more, and they want to buy directly from us. And there are many reasons why. Now, I'm building those reasons with the help of loyalty programs, with subscriptions, et cetera. But if you just want to go to Amazon, or you want to go to Walmart.com, Target.com.
God bless you. Right?
That's amazing, too. It doesn't matter to us.
Right. And I guess the overall is together grow the addressable market, right? I mean, retailers, by and large, they just want to see their share grow, but then also want to see their share of the pie get bigger, and the pie get bigger itself. So you get more people, and I guess you work together. Let's get more people consuming this product together. I guess is the idea, right?
Yep. And the retailers, this time last year, I was saying internally, it's going to be pay to play on Walmart.com, Target.com. It's going to come where we have to invest more in paid media on each of the retailers' websites. Yeah.
They're all into marketplaces now.
They're marketplaces, but also just on our product page on Walmart.com, not even on the marketplace, but our product pages, we have to pay close attention to those product pages, make sure it's updated content, and pull whatever analytics we can, because not every retailer shares the analytics.
Do you worry about marketplaces? There's many retailers and marketplaces, and of course the concern is just getting lost, right? more and more retailers are turning their minds, I think, correctly to curating their marketplace versus, all comers, just list, and we try and make it. But, what are those things that, when you look at a marketplace, is that how you assess it? It's like, how do I make sure I not get lost? I want to make sure I'm in the right neighborhood. I don't want to be beside the cheap imitation product from who knows where kind of products, right? Yeah. These are the things you kind of look at when you look at different marketplaces?
Yeah, I mean, I was at Walmart, VP Strategy and Customer Experience at Walmart Canada when we launched our marketplace, when we were building it, and then when we launched it. And I saw those initial few months where all of the different vendors, it was a mishmash. Some were trustworthy, some were not. And I think
it takes a lot of work, right?
Well, and I think we did it the right way. Open the floodgates and then pare it down from there, rather than go slowly to start. But it was a tough start. I wasn't running that project. Yeah. Tough start, good value prop, and over time, Walmart Canada figured it out. So I know. I mean, and what was it? 10 years ago, Best Buy took a crack at their first marketplace. Yeah. It's been everyone wants one. All the big retailers.
It all sounds pretty easy. Isn't this great? The vendor will ship direct. I just sent them a note. We had the same thing. Listen, going back 10 years ago at the shopping channel, we just called it vendor direct. They still have it. Yeah. Where some inventory is held and shipped direct from the retailer. Others, typically long tail stuff, is shipped direct. And early the days, the platforms are very immature, right? So customer, we didn't get our order, and then our fax machine ran out of paper. Yeah, literally. I think we're past that. So I think
from a brand standpoint, my biggest concern is I just want to own all of those spaces before someone else jumps on and sells a tub of our protein powder for $1,000. If they're a legitimate marketplace, I want to have a listing, and then we'll see what takes off.
And I guess you're putting some thought into other people selling your product. Whether they're allowed to or not. So there's some enforcement stuff, and there's some monitoring, right, of any platform, right?
I'd say that's one of our key areas of focus in the last year was clamping down on the 3P resellers, right, particularly those going on Amazon to sell product that they got from us or from somebody for cheap, and then just turning it around and making a few bucks themselves. Okay. Or, and that's the totally legitimate side, but we still want to make sure that we have some reseller policies in place. The tough side are those that are restamping our products, expired product, and they're literally restamping and turning around. Right? I mean, it's total fraud. Yeah. Amazon helps us to shut it down, but we still have to play whack-a-mole.
Yeah, I was going to say it's a big game of whack-a-mole.
Yeah, get them when we can.
Let's get back to digital for the last couple of questions. So as you think about and you've been on a great journey. A, you got great experience in the background, and B, you've been on a great recent journey building tech stack and thinking about this stuff. And I often think about table stakes to be successful versus differentiators, and kind of advice, not necessarily at Vega, but just generally as you've been thinking about all this stuff. What is it in your mind that is becoming a more and more a differentiator? So, for example. Payment plans like your Zip, for example, which used to be a differentiator, right? Mm-hmm. You could divide your payments up. Have now more and more, they're not there yet, become a bit of a table stake, and then everybody's got it, and then you got to go find something else. How have you been thinking about? Yeah. Do you think about it that way as you build this tech?
Yeah, I'd say most of the conversations I have with other brands, other retailers, is we first share what our tech stack is. Particularly if we're all on the same platform like Shopify Plus, then it's really easy. Who are you using for email? Who do you use for loyalty? Who are you using for subscriptions? So we share the tech stack, and that's sort of the table stakes is, okay, of course you have an email platform. You can share with me which one it is, but then what's different about your email? How are you... and everyone wants better organic traffic. Are you using a platform or an agency to help you with SEO, with search engine optimization? So the table stakes now are, if you're a retailer or a brand and you don't have all of these things, well, then you're behind the curve. It won't take long to catch up. A couple of months, 6 months, a year.
That's the good news, right? I mean,
it's really easy now. It's so easy. You don't have to write your own code. You shouldn't write your own code. Yeah, and even if you have the resources, you should go to those that are best in practice. I don't want to learn all about email. I want a provider to do it for me. So the table stakes are just having that Marcom tech stack filled out, checking all the boxes. What differentiates you is how you relate with the customer, the different things that you can do to build the trust, to give them reasons to come back, to build out, not just to have a loyalty program with a vendor like Yotpo, the one we're using, but to use it properly, to put some life in your voice and not just go through the motions. And, of course, to make sure, this is what we've been saying in retail in my career for 20 years, I'm sure for hundreds of years, but be where the customer is at. And I'm hearing that again here, is to make sure that you are present wherever they are. And that's why I want to be on every retailer's website. I want to be on every legitimate marketplace. I want our own website because people expect to learn more on our own, on a DTC. I want to, of course, be on Amazon and pure play e-retailers. So we are now, I'd say the first step was just doing a lay of the land to see where are we not, or where do we have outdated product pages, outdated images.
A bit of triage, right? Start with triage.
Yeah,
and then
check all those boxes, and then you can start to fly, and then you can really just say, okay, here, this is taking off, this is an area I didn't expect to grow, and then how can we layer different things on top, like live streaming. I don't think customers expect live streaming, not yet. They expect a level of personalization, all these opportunities
they expect a level
have been
of
around.
content, right?
Yeah, but it's going beyond with the extra things that we can provide.
Interesting.
And for a trusted brand like Vega that's been out for 20 years.
It's pretty much table stakes, right?
Yeah.
Like I think people expect to go to a site like yours and find in-depth information about the choices they're making because they're consuming the product that may not be on a marketplace or even your wholesale. That's fine. I'll go to Vega and I'll go find out
exactly.
Is this the right product for me?
Yep.
Last question for you. So you're doing business on both sides of the border. I'm just curious, any difference in the consumers that you've noticed or tactics? Do you do anything different on both sides of the borders? I mean, Canadian typically, when I think of the Canadian consumer, they're a little more risk adverse. Typically, they're a little more value oriented some days. They're a little less willing to try something new. American consumers generally, in my experience, a bit like to try it new, very adventurous, which is the great spirit of the country. But anything jump out at you that you do things differently or experience things differently?
I mean, I have theories, and they're often proven wrong with the data. I thought perhaps the American consumer was more price sensitive, particularly with inflation, with the price of gas. I thought that our product, as a higher price premium product, wouldn't do as well. That the lower price products in these last few months would do better, and that is actually panning out on both sides of the border. But I don't think that's an American versus Canadian consumer thing. I think that's just, the times are calling for people to tighten their belts, and they're less inclined to buy a premium product.
Is that also a gateway strategy for you guys? In other words, start with a lower price and people work up to premium? Is that maybe, in other words, maybe the benefit of more people knowing Vega trial is more at the one price point? I mean, the two things could be mixed together.
Yeah, I haven't seen that behavior, but I will say for sure that Protein and Greens, one of our lower priced, fewer ingredients products, a really simple product, Protein and Greens or Protein Made Simple, that those lower priced products are doing better today. Our strategic account services people at Amazon, those who are helping us with our Amazon 1P, are super excited about Protein Made Simple because that in these times right now, they're expecting that'll do better than something like, say, Vega 1, which is a higher price product.
Premium product.
And boy, is that ever happening. Like in these last few months, the lower price products are doing better. But if somebody wants an all-in-one, they want one supplemental powder that helps them for the day, Vega 1 is still the choice, and it's still one of our lead hero products.
Last question for you. What's new? I mean, what's coming up? What are you working on? I mean, it's a funny question for you because everything's new. You're building out the stack, but what are you looking forward to for the rest of the year?
I mean, what's new? It's funny. Here at this conference, people are talking a lot about the metaverse, and I don't know yet. I mean, it feels like Second Life from what was that, 10, 15 years ago? I don't see much on that. I've seen some pitches where it feels like we're just forcing the technology on people, particularly on a D2C website. I don't think you need an immersive experience to learn about protein powder. I do think things like live stream make sense, but getting into the metaverse, not yet.
Not for you.
So not for me yet. I'm also happy to be proven wrong. I know better than to bank on my own preferences.
That's one of the good things that come into these conferences, right? I mean, there's the practical, pragmatic stuff, and then there's the, maybe I should start thinking about that. Just think about it for the next, maybe in a couple of years it's something. Maybe maybe it goes nowhere, and who knows?
I think what's new is it seems to me that there are more and smarter vendors that are helping us, particularly with DTC. I mean, on the Amazon side, there are some incredible agencies, and Amazon is a fairly easy problem to solve, right? If you have the right support, it's not a whole lot different that you can do. You get your A+ content, you get the right paid media, you spend it properly, figure out where in the funnel you want to allocate your dollars. It's not that complex. It's fairly predictable. It's on the DTC side where there are more and more opportunities.
More moving parts.
We talked earlier about global expansion. I would love to get into other countries, but as a food product with many different ingredients, there are so many limitations for us to expand. There are vendors that are going to help us to do that, and that's exciting for me, is to think, particularly on the DTC side, all the new things that we can be doing that'll just help us open up revenue without a huge investment. I mean, nothing's easier than taking a percentage off of incremental sales. That's my favorite kind of vendor. Yeah. If it's not a heavy upfront cost, hey, why not? Yeah. As long as it doesn't slow my site down. And that's the other concern, is with all of these new things that we can do, layer upon layer, then you start to impact performance. So we have to keep an eye on that.
Right. Yeah. And it's interesting, way down the site. And so much is done on mobile, which is even more sensitive to that kind of stuff, that weighty stuff. Well, listen, Andrew, it's been such a treat getting back together with you. So great to see you in person. So great to have you on the microphone. It's been too long. So listen, I wish you much continued success, and I look forward to keeping in touch and seeing you at the next event later this year.
Oh, I so appreciate it. I love your podcast, and I love being on it. Anyone wants to reach out to me with new vendors, new ideas, you can find me on LinkedIn. Last name is Cherwenka, Cherwenka.
Fantastic. Well, thanks again for joining me, and wish you safe travels back home.
Amazing. Thank you, Michael.
Thanks for tuning into this special episode of The Voice of Retail. If you haven't already, be sure and click and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform so new episodes will land automatically twice a week. And check out my other retail industry media properties, the Remarkable Retail Podcast, Conversations with Commerce Next podcast, and the Food Professor podcast with Dr. Sylvain Charlebois. Last but not least, if you're into barbecue, check out my all-new YouTube barbecue show, Last Request Barbecue, with new episodes each and every week. I'm your host, Michael LeBlanc, president of Michael LeBlanc Company and Maven Media. And if you're looking for more content or want to chat, follow me on LinkedIn or visit my website at michaelleblanc.co. Have a safe week, everyone.